It is June 13th, 2022 at 6 o'clock, Council Chambers. Meeting has been notified regarding the Common Council meeting. Clerk, call the roll.
Oh, there we go.
There we go.
David Holt. Stephen Jopek.
Here.
Eileen Daniel.
Here.
Carrie Michalowski.
Here.
Gerald Anderson. Here. Thomas Barnett.
Here.
Thomas Kelly.
Here.
Leanne Felton.
Here.
Chris Hannes.
Here. We have quorum. Pledge of Allegiance. Public comment. We have Chris Fredrickson.
Good evening. First of all, excellent job. I've been watching from afar, and I think that there's some great things still happening here in the city. First comment I'd like to make is to the Overt Group itself, and that's just that they keep pressing on with the feasibility study and to think big. Think as big as you can, because that's how it gets there. And if you fall a little short, that's all right, but think big. Second thing I came today to report on was about 3 weeks ago, I received a call from Dr. Tingham that the lysimeters that were out at the wellhead 7 and 8 were tampered with, the caps were removed, the permeable membrane was taken off of or whatever, and it was after an incident that had happened with some airport staff. I'm here to impress upon the council that we did this based on our wellhead protection plan, not based on anything that was there, but how in the world we would filter or take care of our own wellheads if that was the case. So I would like you to definitely take note of what's happened. I reported it to Eileen and I reported to our Mayor Hannes. And just thought I would let you all know also that this happened at this time so that it can be followed up on. I'd like to still see the research out there happen. I'd still like us to move forward in fixing it. If you look at our wells that we've had through our city water, we had a PFHXS of 590 running through our wells for I don't know how many years. If you go back to 2013 is when our first PFAS testing was done, and that was at the same level it was when we did it in 2018 or whatever it was that we shut down the wells. At that point, it took me exactly about 20 seconds to call Jim, and Jim just came in to say shut down those wells. So once again, the onus of a wellhead protection plan, which shortly before I left being the mayor, we made the vote and the decision to go ahead with the research, and also I handed out that plan that has a significant impact on our wells for the city personnel also. And then also in there you'll notice that there is with regards to the townships that are around it, some of their information that they're privy to. So that was it. It was just to make you aware of the situation as hand. I believe the police are looking into it, but anyway. And thank you for your time, and I appreciate your service. It comes with, a lot of work at times, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Tom Droll.
So I bet you think I'm going to talk about trees, but I'm not. Well, I might a little later. I'm here to say that Jane Matowski was my supervisor for 16 years when I volunteered at the food pantry, and whatever Mr. Hannes is going to say about her will fall short of her accomplishments. She did more for this community and went way above and beyond the call of duty. And she was a paid employee for the pantry, but she was often there on holidays, on Sundays, helping people with emergency food. An amazing woman, and something that we all could aspire to be in terms of service back to our community. Now I will say something about trees. It's not too late to donate to our tree fund. We're about halfway to our $10,000 goal, which is really exciting. So just a few more checks and we'll be there. I'm confident we're going to do this within 1 year. And so thank you to all of you who have donated to the tree fund. It's awesome.
Thank you. Anyone else for public comment? Not seeing none. Mayor's comments. So I was approached by a citizen a couple weeks ago about declaring June 2nd, 2022 Jane Metowski Day. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to attend the meeting, so said resident had to hand it out on behalf of me. But, you know, Jane has been the proclamation that you see in front of you, council, you know, an asset to the community as well as the food pantry as the manager. I mean, some of the highlights is during her term is, you know, involved with this, which is about 15 years. She, on many levels, made sure that happened, from a day-to-day operations to leading a team to just the quantity of food that got distributed to our public and citizens in need. So just like to recognize her for her hard work and making our community better. So it's official. June 2nd, 2022 is Jane Metowski Day. So. Okay, number 6, consent agenda.
Daniel, I'll make a motion to approve all of the consent agenda items to move forward.
Okay, is there a I don't know if you were seconding or just,
I thought we were to get a chance to remove things if we wanted to request it.
okay, so is there a,
I'll second the motion, Mikulowski.
okay. Mr. Anderson, I'm assuming there's something,
My request would be to remove the minutes of the organizational meeting from the consent agenda.
okay, so that would be 6B would be removed.
Yeah.
Any discussion regarding everything on the consent agenda besides B? Not seeing none, clerk, take the roll.
Thomas Barnett,
Aye.
Leanne Felton,
Aye.
Carrie Mikulowski,
Aye.
Thomas Kelly,
Aye.
Gerald Anderson,
Aye.
David Holt, Eileen Daniel,
Aye.
Stephen Jopek.
Aye.
Motion passes. So now we go to 6B, which is the April 19, 2022 reorganization council meeting minutes. I would entertain a motion.
I would be prepared to make a motion to approve it, but I'd like an opinion of council on one aspect of it, which is,
Let's get it on the floor with a second, and then we can discuss it.
okay, I move approval of the minutes of April 19th meeting.
I'll second that.
So you're concerned now, sir?
What I'd like to inquire about is the item 7, appointment of council members to commissions. I don't think the ordinances are very clear about whether it requires confirmation by the council or not. The terminology nominated makes it sound like confirmation would be expected, but that's not indicated by the rest of the wording. As I read through the ordinances, Board of Review specifically says not to be confirmed by council. The others don't say. And
Yeah, you're correct. As a legal opinion, the mayor has the right to appoint, so it should say that Hannes appointed David, and rather than the word nominated. So I think it would be appropriate if you would request that the minutes be amended to replace the word nominated in 7A, B, C, and D with the word appointed.
Or just a strike in general, I think would do.
Well, it's only that number 7, the appointments, because those are appointments you make. So the word is, Hannah's appointed Dan Holt or appointed Felton. And that's,
Okay, I move to amend the minutes by replacing the word nominated with appointed in 7, A, B, C, and D.
Is there a second for the amendment?
Mikulowski, second.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Passes.
okay, now you have to vote on the main motion as amended.
Any discussion? Not seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. Number 7. So this is regarding an ordinance, and I would be requesting that we do the 2/3 majority before we could waive the second reading. And all this is clearly doing is removing the requirement that we have to have a land surveyor on the planning commission. This is becoming a harder and harder task to find someone who lives within the city limits that A, is a land surveyor, and B, willing to be on the planning commission.
To get a motion on the floor, I move adoption of,
But we could waive the second reading with 2/3 majority.
well, are you just opening it for discussion? That's fine with me, and the way we've tended to operate in the past.
True.
I just wondered if this was something that was at one time a statutory requirement and now it isn't, or how did this get in here in the first place?
Yeah, at one time, the concept of planning commission should have a land surveyor was commonplace under Wisconsin statutes, but the number of land surveyors has diminished significantly, and most of them work for corporate entities, and most corporate entities don't like to have their employees serving in those capacities because it's automatically a conflict of interest when they come to before a plan commission if one of their members is sitting on the board. So it's many communities have removed that, and there's nothing in Wisconsin law that says you must have a land surveyor. You certainly can have one, and the reasons for it are somebody to explain the certified survey maps, et cetera, but that's up to you if you want to do it or not.
Mr. Barnett?
Who would do that duty if we don't have a land surveyor? Isn't that a needed position?
So certified survey maps come, in front of inspections department and then to the planning. So pretty much I would have that direct oversight.
So more work for the inspections department?
It already comes through them currently.
I would say that, I can read any certified survey map. I can tell you if it meets the state requirement. I teach the land surveyors every year, so at their their state conference. So you've got enough expertise that it's not going to create any more hardship.
I would entertain a motion of some kind.
But do we need one on a first reading?
So you're asking for a motion to waive the second reading and pass the ordinance as it's written. I'll make a motion to waive the first reading and move to pass the ordinance tonight.
Anderson, second.
Any more discussion? Not seeing none. Clerk, take the roll.
Gary Mikulowski,
Aye.
David Holt, Eileen Daniel,
Aye.
Stephen Jopek,
Aye.
Gerald Anderson,
Aye.
Thomas Barnett,
Aye.
Leanne Felton,
Aye.
Thomas Kelly.
Aye.
Motion passes and ordinance passes. Number 8, which is discuss an action item of Resolution 2022-8, commercial electrical inspection and associate fee modifications.
Barnett, I move to table the motion, or I'm sorry, the discussion item, Resolution 2022-8 for commercial electrical inspection and associated fee
I did not
modifications.
recognize that because I did not call on you. First, I would like Tom Wadick to speak since he made the time to come out here tonight.
Okay.
The reason I actually recommended this in the first place was before I even retired, before Terry retired, we'd been looking into doing this. We just could not find somebody in our area that was willing to do the commercial electrical inspections. By having a commercial electrical inspector working, not necessarily having the workload placed on the inspection department, but through our office in City Hall, it gives us the ability to work together on projects that come through the city, and it makes it a more fluid process. Right now, we have a state inspector that comes into the area. He doesn't live in the area, and he comes into the area. He has not been working with us. He's actually, in some cases, been working behind the scenes against the city, reporting us for false stuff that we have not done wrong, causing problems for the city, which is why I reached out to Zach, because I'm working for Rick Clem also up in Minocqua doing commercial building inspections. And this inspector that we've recommended is working with us up there. We work together. He calls me with questions. I call him with questions. We work together on the stuff I oversee as a commercial building inspector. Deals with emergency lighting, exit lighting, egress lighting, energy code to do with electrical code. And so when we have questions, we can work together on it. We come up with a consensus where when we have two entities that are working separately that we haven't worked together, we don't have that same consensus. We don't have that same working capabilities together. And it has not worked out since the new inspector has come into our area to do the inspections. So that's why I recommended it in the first place to Zach. I don't know if anyone has any questions for me on how it works or how it's been working for us up there, but that was my reasoning for suggesting it.
I do have one regarding the cost point of view. So a lot of these fees seem to be higher than what we're currently doing. What's your take on that due to, the contractors feel that burden and usually pass it along to the person requesting said work?
Right. I know when Rick Clem put together the fee schedule that he uses with DJ, who's the inspector up there, it was based on the fee schedule provided by Badgerland Inspection at the time. And a lot of the one fee that's about $100 more is a service inspection. But with that service inspection, from what we were provided when we did our research up there, was the service is just one part of that service fee is just one part of that inspection, where they were charging every branch circuit is another fee. There's certain lighting plan review fees, things like that were added to it, and the overall fee for the process for the projects were considerably lower with Rick Clem's price points that he used instead of Badgerland's price points. What I would suggest is the City of Rhinelander currently charges $70 as an administrative fee for electrical inspections, that if you do adopt this new ordinance or this new electrical inspection program, would be to not charge that $70 fee on top of the $250 fee you're charging for the service. Because the reason we did that, the $70 fee, was to make sure they were licensed. You're going to be finding out they're licensed through the permitting process.
Mr. Kelly, I didn't know if you had a question or...
Yeah, I was going to make a motion to postpone this indefinitely.
So since you're recognized, would it be a second for postponement?
No second.
Barnett, I'll second.
Okay. Any discussion? Not seeing it. Oh, Michalowski.
So indefinitely means it can't come back to the council, or what is your thought on that? Is that my understanding correct?
It can come back, but it's unlikely.
Correct.
What's that?
So when I refer to legal counsel...
Yeah, a motion to table indefinitely is out of order because you don't have a motion on the floor. You can't table something that isn't on the floor.
I'm going to play games.
You have to have a motion on the floor before you can move to table the motion. There's a discussion on the floor, but there's no motion on the floor. So if you just don't do anything, that accomplishes exactly what you're talking about. But if you make a motion to approve the I guess it's a resolution, then once that resolution is on the floor, then you could make a motion to postpone.
Mr. Jopek?
Tom, so you mentioned that this would speed up work within city departments, between inspection and city hall. And you have, the current entity is working behind the scenes at times that's counter to what we're trying to accomplish. So are you saying that the process would speed up significantly where we don't run into issues as frequently? Or I guess what are we gaining by taking on this contract as opposed to what we currently have?
So with the new process, you would have the oversight of the inspector that's doing the work within the city. So you'd be able to work with them to make things easier for city government to move things forward too. And some of the things that he's doing, he's behind the scenes, he's been reporting us to the state, accusing us of not doing our job correctly, accusing Robbie of doing the commercial inspections. He's complained about me not allowing him, not making people do I have a job to do, and when I do my job, he's been reporting me to the state inspector up north, complaining that I won't acknowledge his authority when he was overstepping his authority on me, on what I'm allowed to do, which would allow him to charge more fees that were unnecessary to the customer in the one particular case.
Okay, and you mentioned oversight of the inspector, so that's something that doesn't change from one to the next, correct? Because you'd mentioned earlier that currently all plans already go through the inspector, so there's no change in responsibility for the inspector with regards to these inspections.
So the commercial electrical inspector, the only difference in the inspection office would be who once this new inspector does his report, he would file it electronically through Laserfiche. The permit process would still take place, which is existing through the inspection office. Again, the only difference would be, and I know there's some wording, I think, in the contract that has to be worked out that isn't correct on how he currently does it.
Okay.
Mr. Barnett?
I'd like to hear what Robbie has to say.
Tom just clarified it, and it's just more on the contract end of it. Permits to get issued through our office, and everything else would be on Bear Electric. All the reports, all the paperwork.
Mr. Barnett?
I'd like to make a motion to table this until the next meeting, until we can get things cleared up with the inspections department as far as the extra workload, the issues that we received from the emails that were sent out. I am not comfortable adding anything more onto that department until we get the rest of the issues settled with that department.
Michalowski, second.
Ms. Daniels, I didn't know if you still have okay. Any other discussion? Not seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Table passes. Number 9, new business. So A would be discuss and approve the Timber Drive base bid award alternatives 1, 2, and supplemental for Picklick and Wick in the amount of $1,154,741 and 33 cents. Can I have Mark step up from Town and Country?
So this project is a rebid of the original Timber Drive. If you recall, we bid Timber Drive from Stevens Street to the bypass. Bid prices came in high, and that was not awarded. The major obstacle in that initial bid was the pipe. Pipe came in high, and there were, I think the original bids were 3.6 million versus 3.3 where we had anticipated. So we trimmed this down to get some work done on timber. This would still involve full curb removal and replacement, addition of some sidewalks, replacement of some concrete flat work, full depth pulverizing of the asphalt pavement, and repaving. So we received 2 two bids, one from Pitlick and Wick and one from Musson Brothers. They were fairly close, within about 30,000. Pitlick and Wick was low bid at 906,000 for the base bid and change. Alternate bids were for Lois Street. This was a mill and overlay. This will be something similar to what was done on Lincoln Street, milling out to the face of the curb and repaving 1.5 inches. The other bid is for West Timber. That's the alternate 2. And you'll see coming up in the next agenda item with the pay request from Chippewa. Chippewa Concrete replaced all the curb and gutter from Thayer down past Wisconsin to the dead end. In doing that, they had to remove 42 inches of asphalt next to the curb on each side, which leaves about 19 feet of asphalt left. The intent was the city was going to patch that asphalt in, put a chip seal on a portion of it, and then save 1 block from Thayer to Evergreen for a pulverizing in the future. Staff suggested bidding this to see what we get for prices for a full depth pulverized now that we have new curb. It's a very wise decision to do that. In my point of view, you're going to get 25 years of life on that road to get it repaved. And then there's supplemental bid items for bad subbase and whatnot. And as I say, with all these bids, the supplementals are items that we're hoping not to use. It's just a matter of establishing pricing in case you need those items. So based on these prices, they are high, but there's every indication that prices are going to be going nowhere but up. So the prices are reasonable. Pitlick and Wick is a very good contractor. They haven't done a lot of work in the city in recent years, but they do a ton of work in other nearby communities, and we would recommend awarding the base bid, the alternates, and the supplemental to Pitlick and Wick if budget allows.
When is work supposed to be completed by?
October 28th is the completion date, and once the project is awarded, if it's awarded, I'll find out from the contractor when their anticipated start date is, but I would expect sometime in August they would get going on it.
Any questions or anyone wants to make a motion? Mr. Anderson?
At the top of the second page, it says, and the supplemental bid if the budget allows. Does the budget allow?
It does. Since we pared back the second half of timber, it does, and that's why we actually included the alternatives that we did in there, accommodating some additional work since we had to pare back the original scope of timber.
Yeah.
And the Pratt is the funding source.
I'll move that we approve the bid and award the contract to Pitlick and Wick for the base bid, alternate bid number 1, alternate number 2, and supplemental. Total amount of $1,154,741.33.
Is there a second?
Mikulowski, second.
Okay, any discussion? Not seeing none, clerk, take the roll call.
Gerald Anderson,
Aye.
Stephen Jopek,
Aye.
Eileen Daniel,
Aye.
Carrie Mikulowski,
Aye.
Thomas Kelly,
Aye.
Thomas Barnett,
Aye.
David Holt, Leanne Felton.
Aye.
Motion passes. 9B, which is discuss and approve bills and claims in the amount of $2,437,246.83.
Daniel, make a motion to approve bills and claims in the amount of $2,437,246.83.
Barnett, second.
Any discussion? Not seeing none, clerk, take the roll call.
Leanne Felton,
Aye.
Thomas Kelly,
Aye.
Eileen Daniel,
Aye.
Thomas Barnett,
Aye.
Gerald Anderson,
Aye.
Carrie Mikulowski,
Aye.
Stephen Jopek,
Aye.
David Holt.
Motion passes. Going on to 9C, which is a change order for current work performed.
So this is the concrete portion of the street work. This was awarded to Chippewa Concrete. They performed the work in May. This particular change order, if you look at the pay requests, which is the next item, this contract was divided into two parts. Part one is for short sections of concrete removal and replacement. Short sections are anything less than 30 feet. That encompassed Mason Street, Fremont, Rose, Madison, Doyle, and a couple other streets where it was just anticipated we're going to do some spot curb repair. I walked it with staff before Chip was started this contract, and we added a few more lengths of curb and felt it was a good opportunity to replace some of the handicap ramps and put truncated domes in. So the three items that you see on here are the truncated domes on the handicap ramps, some concrete sidewalk, and removal of concrete. The reason this is a change order, all these items are in part 2, but they were not quantities for part 1. So we added the change order in, so we had a place to put these quantities. So the pricing is the same as you'll see on the part 2 on the pay request, but we added these in for accountability.
I would entertain a motion. Mr. Anderson?
Well, I just wanted to ask, what are truncated domes?
The truncated domes on the handicap ramps, those are the metal plates that you see. They're the cast iron plates with the circular domes on it. They're for ADA compliance on handicap ramps. In the past, the city has put in a diamond pattern on the handicap ramps. And a couple years back, council had voted where the opportunity arises, put in the truncated domes to meet ADA compliance.
Mr.
Yeah,
Anderson?
I move to approve change order number 1 for the 2022 street improvement project in the amount of $5,513.36.
Is there a second?
Daniel, second.
Any discussion? Not seeing none, clerk, take the roll call.
Eileen Daniel,
Aye.
David Holt, Thomas Kelly,
Aye.
Stephen Jopek,
Aye.
Thomas Barnett,
Aye.
Gerald Anderson,
Aye.
Leanne Felton,
Aye.
Carrie Mikulowski.
Aye.
Motion passes. Moving on to 9D, which is the number 1 pay application for said work stated above.
Daniel, make a motion to approve pay application number 1 for the 2022 street improvement project in the amount of $140,377.69.
Is there a second?
Jopek second.
Any discussion? Not seeing none, clerk, take the roll call.
Thomas Kelly,
Aye.
Stephen Jopek,
Aye.
Eileen Daniel,
Aye.
Carrie Mikulowski,
Aye.
Gerald Anderson, Thomas Barnett,
Aye.
David Holt, Leanne Felton.
Aye.
Motion passes. Moving on to 9E. So this is actually a fun one. So this is us starting the process of repaving, which is known as Coolidge, and well, what it's actually known as is up for debate, but it's the road between Lincoln Street and Timber Drive, which is Shepherd and Coolidge, but depending on who you talk to, the dividing line's a little iffy. So this is pretty much us applying for a grant to be able to fund that. The hope is to get this for the 2024 fiscal year. I refer to Zach for any details.
Yeah, as the mayor had indicated, this is a part of the bipartisan infrastructure law program. It's the 2023 to 2026 timeframe. So if we are awarded, construction could begin as soon as 2024. Was the cycle that this one went in for. And as the mayor said, DOT calls it Coolidge for the entire length. I think some of us locally think it's called Shepherd in some sections, but it's actually all Coolidge. So that would be from the limits the mayor mentioned from Timber to Lincoln Street. And the idea is to reconstruct it entirely, potentially adding bike lanes in each direction. As well as the construction with a geogrid sort of style under subsurface to hold the road together in a fashion that it didn't previously get constructed in. So optimistic with this. There's a lot of money flowing, but the DOT did advise me that the last round of applications was oversubscribed
3 times as many applications as there was funding. So I don't know what to make of this one, other than, we've got an application in, and it was about 2 million, I believe it was just under $2 million, with 80-20, so 80% being funded by the 1.5 million plus contingencies puts it close to 2 million. But 80% will be federal and state, and 20% being local. And then the other, to make the grant more attractive, we submitted it based upon the city paying 100% for the design costs. And it was advised to us that those will score higher than ones where the DOT or the feds are paying for design.
What would that cost be roughly?
I think it's on the estimate, 120,000, design engineering, about 8% of project costs, so yeah.
Where would you plan on pulling those funds from?
That would be through Pratt, and likely to begin next year. It wouldn't be a 2022 effort. And we'll find out, I think they said August, September timeframe, if we're successful.
Any discussion, or anyone willing to entertain a motion? Ms. Piskalowski?
So are we planning to change the road signs if that road isn't actually called
It's a
Shepherd?
good question. We probably should. The trouble is it might involve addressing issues there's only a couple homes on that roadway, so we'll have to take a look at that. South of Spring, or at Spring Lake, I think there's at least a house, so yeah, that's a good question.
Horrible plug would be probably, depending on if the DOT awards us funding, then it would be more lucrative to change.
Yeah.
All right, I will make a motion to approve the BIL STP urban grant application for Coolidge Avenue.
Is there a second?
Daniel, second.
Any discussion? Not seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. Moving on to F, which is liquor license. So our police chief had to leave. The only one that he had some concerns with, but he was able to meet with the bar owner to work everything out, would be moonlighting. There were some concerns about not always following all the policies and statutes, but he's confident that they should be renewed and move forward. That they have met a good understanding of where each stands. So. Would entertain a motion to approve.
Mikulowski, I'll make a motion to approve the 2022-2023 liquor license renewals for the attached properties.
Felton, second.
Any discussion? Or do we want to wait a second or two since it looks like the chief just walked right back in?
I'd like to, if he could speak to that singular one at
Chief,
least.
no pressure, but you have perfect timing.
Sorry for being late. I was at a pretty serious call. Over the past, since July 1st, since they got their license, we had 2 incidents at moonlighting where they were open after hours. Both times they were cited. I went over there and spoke with their bar manager, and he said that they rectified the situation. I just made them aware that could in the future have an impact on their license status. So we'll see going forward how they behave.
Is it just like a lack of awareness on the statutes and the ordinances, or is there, I mean, I know you said it is rectified, but like, what exactly caused this to happen twice?
2 different bartenders. Once was clearly open after hours serving. The second one was they were trying to be nice. They had a dart tournament, and they closed the bar and they didn't serve any more alcohol. They were allowing the players to continue, but under the closing time meaning that everybody has to be out. The only people that can be on the licensed premise is an employee, and they have to be cleaning. So it was a violation. The good thing was they weren't serving.
Okay. Mr. Anderson?
It's stated this is notice of hearing, Is there any formalities we need to go through as a public hearing in addition to passing a motion?
Mr. Attorney?
The license renewal would only turn into a hearing if we were denying their application. Then they have a right under the statute for a due process hearing. But as long as we're just renewing them, no one really has a right to a due process hearing when we're just renewing them, if that makes sense to you.
Yeah.
Okay. Not seeing any more discussion. There's a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. Number 10, monthly reports. So Jay, I did talk to the employee in the museum complex. I did inform him that it's at his leisure whenever he would like to submit a report, due to this is not a year-round department. And he would just fall in line with every other department, you know, submit a written report that would be included with your council packet.
Barnett, I make a motion to approve the reports from the departments.
Daniel, second.
Any discussion? Not seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Not hearing none, motion passes. And I would entertain someone to put us into closed session.
Barnett, I make a motion to go into closed session to, if necessary, convene in closed session. No, I don't have to read all that? Oh, you do?
No.
I do? Okay. I remember Eileen having to do that. If necessary, convene into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin State Section 19.85, 1 sub CEG, considering employment, promotion, compensation for performance evaluation data and any public employee over which the government body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility in deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, the investigating of public funds, or conduct other specified public business. Whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session, A, discuss statutes of negotiations with the Rhinelander Professional Police Association Local 38. B, discuss parameters for a development agreement with Hodag Hospitality Group LLC. C, discuss parameters for a development agreement with Rhinelander Cobblestone LLC. D, discuss the sale of city-owned property. And E, discuss litigation in which the body is or may become involved in. F, discuss employee compensation system. B, return to open session. B, take action as necessary on closed session items.
Is there a second?
I'll second that, but I'm not going to read it again.
Clerk, call the roll.
Stephen Jopek,
Aye.
David Holt, Leanne Felton,
Aye.
Thomas Kelly,
Aye.
Gerald Anderson, Carrie Mikulowski,
Aye.
Eileen Daniel,
Aye.
Thomas Barnett.
Aye.
We're going into closed session. See you in a little bit. Did you like unplug it or something, or? You got your motions ready for everyone? Okay. It is 7:56. We are returning from closed session. Any motions? Michalowski? Now?
Oh, there.
All right. Michalowski, I will make a motion to direct the administration and legal to present the adjacent property owners for the purchase of city-owned property at Morrill Street with costs paid for by the buyers.
Daniel, second.
Believe you have to do a roll call for.
You should, yes, you're selling property. You should do a roll call, you're selling property.
Can I get repeat of the wording on that? How was that worded?
Motion to direct administrator and legal to present the adjacent property owners for purchase of city-owned property at Morrill Street with costs paid for by the buyers.
Clerk, take the roll.
Wait, we haven't had discussion.
Oh, sorry, discussion.
It present somehow doesn't sound like the right word. Are we selling it? Are we giving it? Are we trading it? I mean,
The understanding, that just as legal counsel, my understanding of the motion is that the administration has been directed to contact the property owners who are affected by the restructuring of Morrill Street and sell them the property that they're currently using at a fair price that we've determined and discussed, and that they have to agree to cover all the costs of surveying as addition. What was the price per foot? 50 cents?
Yeah, 50 cents, and then 1,800 for survey costs.
So it's going to end up, for example, the biggest one's going to end up at $2,000. And that's what we're going to negotiate with them.
Any more discussion? Clerk, call the roll.
David Holt. Gerald Anderson.
aye.
Stephen Jopek.
Aye.
Carrie Michalowski.
Aye.
Eileen Daniel.
Aye.
Thomas Barnett.
Aye.
Leanne Felton.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Any other motions?
Wait, I wasn't done yet.
Oh, sorry.
Leanne Felton.
Aye.
Thomas Kelly.
Aye.
Sorry, I just heard a pause and distracted by 8 other things. Any other motions? Michalowski?
Michalowski, I'd like to make a motion to direct city staff to negotiate a developer's agreement with Hodag Hospitality Group, LLC, and Rhinelander Cobblestone, LLC, with contract appearing at the next council meeting.
Is there a second? Any discussion? Clerk, call the roll.
Gerald Anderson.
Aye.
Thomas Barnett.
Aye.
Eileen Daniel.
Aye.
Thomas Kelly.
Aye.
Carrie Michalowski.
Aye.
David Holt. Leanne Felton.
Aye.
Stephen Jopek.
Aye.
With all 8 reporting, motion passes. Any other motions? Not seeing any. Any future agenda items?
I'd like to put one on, this might have been covered at some point, but on Lincoln Street, looking at crosswalks to cross the thoroughfare from like the Pioneer Park direction across Lincoln Street. Got multiple families in my constituency who are requesting there be flags or something stationed there so that they can get their families across the street without being run down by 4 lanes of traffic.
Okay. Barnett?
I'd like an update on, you know what? I forgot what I wanted, so I'll message it in when I remember.
Okay. With that, it is 8:02. Common Council meeting is adjourned.